Hello my beautiful and lovely gamers, my name is Jonal and today we're talking about the new D.va. How good is she? I think that there's a lot of misunderstandings or kind of just rash decision and talks about her from a lot of other YouTubers, so I want to cover that right now. This was a question that was asked in where I talk about the new Mercy. I talk a little bit about what I feel about the new Mercy and people were like, what do you think about the new D.va? So, let's just jump right into this. I don't believe that the new D.va is shit. A lot of people are like, oh, D.va is so bad, she's broken, she doesn't work anymore, okay? Like, the bad version of broken, not the proper version of, like, not like Hanzo Scatter Arrow broken, but like actually really shit. And I think that that's really wrong. And I just believe that a lot of players are playing her wrong because they used to play the old D.va, but you can't play the old D.va. And while I do agree that she's on the weaker end of the spectrum, I still believe that she has her shining moments, and I actually like playing her. I think that she's far more fun to play. And of course she's more fun to play against, but she's far more fun to play. So essentially she's easier, of course, to burst down. That's what a lot of people are pointing out, and I cannot not agree on that. The old D.va was really good to play kind of passive aggressive. You had a lot of defense metrics, and that was kind of your job. Your job was to stop damage output, stop these huge clunks of damage, and was really good at peeling. But you could still take down at the old D.va, could still take down certain targets, this is like a Zenyatta or something like that. She could do that. She could do follow-up damage and apply pressure. Her job was really just to stop as much damage, soak as much damage, and kind of play a little bit of a zoning game with the enemy team. The new D.va on the other side is far more about that aggression. She's far more aggressive because of her burst damage. Her rockets are actually really, yeah, I wouldn't say they're like insane, but they're pretty fucking good. You can use them to burst a lot of targets down really quickly, including the fact that you can now fly while using your primary fire, and you can continue holding your primary fire on a target while you fire rockets. You can fire rockets while defense matrixing, and that does that you can burst down especially tanks. So for example, if an enemy Winston dives you guys on defense or on offense, whatever, then you can kind of just hold down, you can fly towards him, that can boop him so he doesn't actually hit the target, and you will of course fire your primary fire while you fly towards him, charging your rockets off, and when you then get close to him, your rockets will burst right into him, and that's a lot of burst damage which can nuke him. And that's what she's really good at. She's actually really good at playing kind of this like strafing run. She flies up to a tank, or whatever you guys are focusing as a focus target, she empties those rockets straight into that tank while keeping pressure with her standard gun, and then she can peel on a little bit of a different scale. Because the old D.va's peeling was really like, I'm just gonna hold down my defense matrix, it lasts for so long, so I'll just block insane amount of damage. And as long as you had some kind of game sense on when to micromanage your own defense matrix uses, so you didn't just burn it up all the time, so you had some in the bank in case something really important had to be blocked, you were good. This new one, on the other hand, you have to kind of swap it off and on, off and on, off and on. You need to prioritize what is important for me to block. Soldier spam is not that important to block for me, especially if I have another tank. It isn't. It just isn't. McCree shot might be a little bit, but in general, it really isn't that important. What's important is stuff like Hanzo arrows, scatter arrows, right? Maybe some Junkrat bombs, especially if your team is in a very vulnerable position. Helix rockets, maybe some standard rockets. Of course, certain ultimates, you will try to block as much of them as you can to kind of like just minimize them, but you can't properly negate them as you could before. And that's like the most important thing. So you kind of need to turn it off and on, off and on, off and on, and just really hope for the best. And those works really good on longer ranges, when you can actually see those shots coming, right? When you can see the hands of charging as around aiming in an angle at your feet, you know, okay, that's the scatter, I gotta stop that. However, compared to the old D.va, right, where you could just hold it, in close range, those two are very, very the same. Because if you're in close range, then all of a sudden you can't really predict the shots. You can predict some shots, you can predict the Hog, the Reaper, fire rate and stuff like that, but you don't have time to react for a Helix rocket in close range against a soldier. It will just pop out and hit you instantly. Maybe you can try to guesswork when he will fire it, like Genjis do with their deflects, but it's so inconsistent. So at those times, what you can do, you could just activate your defense matrix, just try to block as much damage, so that, for example, your Winston can do as much free work as possible while you're trying to charge out your rockets. Because that's what you need to do. You need to micromanage your rockets, and those are really the kind of giving factor, because that burst damage on the tanks and even on some DPSs are important. Now you might be wondering, well, Jonal, hitting it on the DPS it's very inconsistent, and it is, and I'll talk a little bit about what I think actually can be done to make her better at what the role that she has now a little bit later in the video. And while shooting down someone like a Mercy and a Pharah is really hard, what's much easier is, of course, you can just use them a little bit like a Helix rocket. It's just right, you rarely fire a Helix rocket directly towards the opponent, you're a lot of time aiming at the feet, and that's the stuff that you can do similar with rockets. Her rockets, you can just kind of fire them at the ground and deal in general splash damage while you're pressuring them with your standard primary fire. So that's really her playstyle now. You need to be a little bit more of a strafer, a little bit more aggressive in the face of the tank, burst down the rockets while you pressure them with your primary fire, and then you kind of maybe want to back out with whatever defense matrix you have. Try to follow out damage in general like that. That's a really good way of doing it. She's a little bit more scary now because of her DPS output. So it's not just to go up to the D.va and fuck with her, because the rockets can actually be really scary for a tank. However, she is on the weaker end of the spectrum. I cannot deny that she dies way too fast, and the burst damage that she has is too much of the low end. So what I would like to see from Blizzard is maybe give her a buff to her rockets. Maybe I would like to see bigger splash to them, so that they are easier to use as splash damage. And that's like one of the good thing I would like to see, so you can actually consistently land all those rockets by just firing at the ground around the enemy. Maybe increase their damage a little bit. I wouldn't mind seeing that, so that she could actually do some proper damage. Or increase her damage from her primary fire, as she had way back in the days when she had really good primary fire. Maybe increase some of that. That is the stuff that I would like to see. If they don't want her to go back to the good old D.va where you can like defense matrix for half an hour, and this turn off and on matrix is kind of weird. Maybe they can increase the defense matrix recharge even more, so it's even better to recharge. That could maybe be a good idea. That way you couldn't full hold it, but you would kind of turn it off and on way more consistently. That's kind of the things that I'm thinking about. Or the last thing is to make her kind of like an ult generator, where her ultimate is way stronger than what it is right now. Something like maybe you could detonate the nuke by pressing your own ult button. That's a really strong buff, but that could maybe make her viable. Just because her ult will be really good, she might be quite viable. But that's kind of my thoughts and opinions. Drop down in the comments what you guys think about the new D.va. What you guys think could be done to maybe fixing her. What do you guys think is bad? What do you guys think is good? I would love to hear from you guys. Besides, guys, leave a like if you liked and subscribe if you haven't already. It really helps out the channel. I'm also doing live streaming on Twitch. There's a link down there. Whoa. Can't fucking talk. There's a link to it down in the description, okay? Down in the description. Yeah, you heard it. And you can follow me there. You can ask me questions. I love to play with some people from my team. It's really fun, and it's really great to see you guys, and it's really motivating to see you guys coming in there saying hey journal and communicating. I love that, so I'll continue to do that as much as I can. Besides that, guys, I hope you have a lovely gaming experience. As always, guys, my name is Journal. Stay positive and keep the enemy in your crosshair.